Welcome back to another episode of the Adventures of a Disney Dad podcast. My name is Matt, and I am a dad of three and the founder of adventuresofadisneydad.com, travel agent with the magic for less travel, and your host. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Chip Robinson, soon to be dad. Well, haha, no longer soon to be dad of five. He is the dad of five, Chip Robinson. Chip, how's everything going tonight, man?
Oh, crazy time in the Robinson household.
Yeah, all those little ones running around. That'll
Oh
do
yeah.
it. In a crazy time in the week of theme parks.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, what a week. And I'm not just talking about Tiana's Bayou adventure having water running for the first time, which is like the only thing we're getting excited about at Walt Disney World right now.
Yeah, I watched
Uh
like four different angles of the water running down. I don't know why. I saw like four different videos. I watched them all.
I felt the same way, and I all I could think is that it is almost sad that we as Disney fans are getting excited about something like that in comparison to everything that was announced this week at Universal. And to be fair, everything that Universal Orlando announced for Epic Universe was not really new, right? They had a flyover, they had some cool hype videos, they had a lot of new concept images, and we've seen a lot of like the construction photos and things like that. But most of this stuff had generally been announced before, or we had seen kind of concepts of it, but it's getting close and the hype is building. And Chip, what did you think generally about Universal's announcements?
I think the biggest thing, like I was looking at the pictures this evening about it, and it just reminded me of it. And I just love the concept that you almost enter in a portal and you're in a new area. Like I just get like they're completely separated off.
It's almost like multiple different parks within a park.
Yeah, and I love that there's like, and I get like we have Fantasyland and all of that, and like in Frontierland, you're gonna have Super Mario Nintendo World. Like that's awesome. And then you can go over to the Dark Universe. It
To be
feels
fair,
like
Galaxy's Edge kind of has a tunnel.
but you know what? I will say Galaxy's Edge is the closest to that.
I think
Uh,
that's really what it's going to be. Is very similar to the way that you feel like you're
almost,
transported somewhere else.
and even including like Toy Story Land to Galaxy's Edge, like that kind of feeling. But this feels like they're going to be completely separated. Like I don't, even though they'll be next to each other, but they just feel like they're going to be completely separated.
So out of the different portals that they announced, so they had Celestial, which is going to have an awesome shooting star roller coaster, Dark Universe, How to Train Your Dragon, Harry Potter, and Super Nintendo. Which one really got you excited? You know, the most excited.
You know what? I've seen bits and pieces of How to Train Your Dragon, but just everything I've seen from that land has me so fired up. Like the roller coaster, I've seen a dragon flying on something. That might have been over in somewhere else, but it's that's probably the one area where I'm like, you know what? I'm actually excited for that. Like that roller coaster looks sweet.
I think it's interesting just because How to Train Your Dragon isn't like a huge movie in our house, but it still looks like an awesome area. The IP driven stuff that I think you'll see at Super Nintendo and Harry Potter are probably what excite me the most, just because Harry Potter is just it's I mean it's Harry Potter. And the way that they've done the two areas that they have now, Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade and the castle, like it is awesome. And so I think Harry Potter is gonna be phenomenal. I think all of it's gonna be great, but I'm kind of excited about the Celestial Gardens area just because I like the idea of them doing something that's not necessarily IP
Yeah,
related and having a new roller coaster. I think that's gonna be a lot of fun. And one of the coolest parts is that there's gonna be a hotel in the park.
that's exactly what I was going to say. I'm like, that actually kind of is one of the biggest appealing things. It kind of gives me that feel of the Grand Californian a little bit, having
Mhm.
your own entrance. But I'm interested to see like how that all comes about of like driving to the backside and then how do you get in and how do you go to the other parks or
And
things like
and for
that.
context for like folks that are Disney, you know, predominantly Disney fans that listen, the Universal hotels and resorts are awesome. They do not get enough love and respect. And part of that is just because, they don't have the same kind of theming that the Disney resorts have. And people when they go on these vacations, a lot of them want to stay at Walt Disney World and then go for a day or two at Universal. And the Universal resorts, I think, unfortunately, get often overlooked for that reason. And I absolutely love them. I've stayed at a few. They're premium resorts, they're premier level resorts, which is the Disney version of deluxe, are top notch, and they're not nearly as high priced as the Walt Disney World resorts. Hard Rock is right up there outside of theming, right up there with any of the Disney deluxe resorts, and I absolutely love them. So this one I'm sure is going to be a premier level Universal resort. And it's going to have a premier price tag that first year for sure.
And I would say, like, just from my experiences, everybody that I know have stayed at Portofino or the Royal
Mhm.
Pacific, and then they've gone to Disney, and they will tell you that the resorts over at Universal may be the best resorts in Orlando.
I agree, and the downside is that feel like the food is better at Walt Disney World, and I try not to be biased when I think about that, but like to me, the great restaurants, you need to go over to the City Walk, which isn't far from any of the Universal Orlando resorts. It's like going to Disney Springs. But at the resort hotels, I think the food is lacking a little bit for Universal, but again, it's not got the price tag that Walt Disney World resorts have. So,
Yeah.
and you get we've talked about this repeatedly. You get Express Pass when you stay at those resorts, which can be worth a lot of money
Oh
in
my
and of
gosh.
itself.
Yes.
So with this week on the episode, we're going to talk a little bit more Disney news. We got a couple more things to cover here in terms of Disney stuff. We've kind of touched on the Universal stuff, and I know a lot of people have been enamored with Universal Epic Universe news, so I don't want to touch on that too much more beyond what we've talked about tonight. So after we talk a little bit of Disney news, we're going to jump into your listener questions. We've got a lot of listener questions in the inbox, so we want to get through those tonight. We love getting your questions on social media, so please feel free to send those in. Before we get into that, we've got a little bit more Disney news. Aside from water testing happening at Tiana's Bayou Adventure, we also had a celebrity sighting. Jason Kelce and his family were at Magic Kingdom as Chip being an offensive lineman. And I think everybody loves the Kelseys right now and their podcast, New Heights. He was there with his family. The NFL Pro Bowl is going on in Orlando. So there were a lot of NFL players and their families throughout the parks and resorts this week. And one of the things we touched on social media, which drove me nuts, Jason Kelsey is known to wear flip flops everywhere, right? He in the middle of winter in Philadelphia, he walks into their games wearing, $2 flip flops, and it's kind of his persona as being a tough offensive lineman, and I can appreciate that. But I cannot bear the idea of people wearing flip flops at Walt Disney World. And so I made a comment that, Jason was seen wearing flip flops at Walt Disney World. And sure enough, when I woke up this morning, I had no less than 17 direct messages on Instagram from people saying, I wear flip flops at Walt Disney World all the time. And I was like, you people need to be committed. Like, Chip, have
Hey,
you ever worn sandals at Walt Disney World? Oh,
I,
come on,
I
man.
was I was one of the ones that sent a message to you, and I got a nice message
Oh,
back from you. I love wearing. Now, listen, hold on.
come on now.
I can wear sandals everywhere. I wish I could wear sandals to work every day because I would. And it's been since college I've done it. Now I will tell you for the bulk of the day, like if we go during the day, I'm not going to wear my flip flops. But in the evening, if we're only going to be around for 2 or 3 hours, I'll wear them. It's not. It's one of those that I don't mind wearing sandals because during the summer, being a teacher, I'm either in sandals or I'm in football coaching shoes. Other than that, maybe my golf shoes every once in a while, but that's all I wear. Like I love wearing sandals anytime I can. Like I just like they're comfortable to me. So
Yeah,
I
I get sandals being comfortable, but man, you if you're rolling through, 13,000 to 20,000 steps at
oh
Walt Disney
that's
World, you're
what's the
getting in and out of
tail end.
rides.
It's the
You're getting
tail
in
end
and
of
out
it.
of yeah, you're getting in and out of ride vehicles. Like people are stepping on your feet. There's strollers everywhere. Like no, that it's just I can't do it. I can't do it. So anyway, all of you, I applaud you if you're on Team Chip about the sandals. But to me, you guys are all a different breed, and it could never be me. So
Maybe
I
it's an old
down.
lineman thing.
But the fun thing about Jason Kelce in Magic Kingdom, and we talked about this a little bit also on social media, is the MVP parade possibility. So if you're unfamiliar with the background at Walt Disney World, I think it was Super Bowl 21. I'm going to Disney World was the
Phil
iconic
Sims,
ad.
1987.
Yeah, so Phil Sims wins the Super Bowl, and he was the first person that Disney pegged for the ad. I'm going to Disney World, because he was the Super Bowl MVP. Now, what Disney does is they run that ad with whoever is the MVP. So they'll talk numbers in terms of finances and how much they're going to pay whoever it could possibly be, and they'll kind of have some deals worked out. If it's a random MVP that it kind of isn't a favorite or isn't expected, then I think they do it the next day or whatever the case may be. But then the MVP gets to have part of their choice is, do I want to go to Disneyland for a parade or do I want to go to Disney World? But it's important to note that the ad started with "I'm going to Walt Disney World," right? So there's been some. I think most recently, Patrick Mahomes has done Walt Disney World and Disneyland. There's some talk about, because the Super Bowl is in Vegas this year, since it's closer to Disneyland, will the MVP go to Disneyland? And my question that I pondered is what happens, which is a very reasonable possibility. What happens if Travis Kelce wins the MVP? I mean, how bananas would either Disneyland or Magic Kingdom be if
So
Travis Kelce's the MVP?
so kind of going back, I did a TikTok on this and talking about it. My guess is they are going to Disneyland, being on the West Coast. The other thing about it is, if Travis Kelce does it, does Taylor Swift go with him? My guess is going to be no. Multiple reasons. Number one, I don't know if she wants to take on that media, that circus, all of that.
Mhm.
The other thing is, if she's flying in from Tokyo, because that's the big topic. She's flying in from Tokyo. She's got to be in Australia by Wednesday, so she might just come to the game and then go out, and we'll see her in a couple weeks for at the
Mhm.
parade or whatnot. But I don't think she goes. I
It'll be
also
interesting.
also Mahomes is a two-time person to say I'm going to Disney World. He's gone to Disney World and Disneyland. And the thing I've noticed recently is they've gotten so good with technology of they do it. They know who they're going to within probably the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game. They have them say it right then and there, and they run it within the next commercial break after they've been handed their T-shirt and hats.
It's very quick, but I will say, like, I think the most recent one that was a little surprising was Cooper Cup. But I can't remember if there was an MVP that was really shocking. And I do think that, like, Travis Kelce wouldn't be really shocking, but it would be a little bit of a surprise just because for those that don't follow football that much, if Travis Kelce does really well, Patrick Mahomes also did really well because he's
Yeah.
throwing the ball. So that's part of it. But the one thing that leans me towards the possibility that she would be there, she's got the concert in Australia on the 16th. Super Bowl's on the 12th. Travis Kelce and his parents both live in Orlando. So a lot of people don't know that they live in Orlando. Taylor has gone to Orlando. She's been in MCO with Travis Kelce multiple times now. So I would think that if she's going to Australia after the Super Bowl, he's going with her. That I think that's a give, MVP or not. I think he's going with her to Australia. Now the question becomes, would it just be easier to bounce to Orlando and then to Australia, or easier to bounce to California and then to Australia? I lean towards, they're gonna want to all go to where his family's from so that he can go home. That's my only theory there. But either way, whichever coast he goes to, if it were to happen, like, I don't think that people are prepared for how bananas that would be. Because just the speculation of Taylor being in the park, even if you're not going to see her, because she wouldn't be in the parade. She's very
No.
good about letting, like, Travis Kelce get his shine and that kind of thing on the football field, and so I'm sure that she would not actually be in the parade, and you probably may not even see her, but she would be there. I find that whole idea to be really interesting, and I love the history of the "I'm going to Disney World" ad. I think it's really cool. There was a Peyton's Places episode on ESPN. You can look up on ESPN Plus or on YouTube. I've also done a video about that on social media. The history of that whole thing is really cool. The way that they've continued that add on, and
I,
Disney obviously pays a lot of money for it. So
honestly, if I'm winning the Super Bowl, I'm in Vegas. I don't want to be the one that goes to Disney World, but that's just me. Uh,
Vegas is overrated. Vegas is overrated. That's the conversation for a different day, but Vegas is overrated. So the other really interesting news that came out is the Washington Post article is titled "Disney trips are so complicated now that you need a class to plan one." And I found this interesting mostly because it cited a few influencers. I'll use that term loosely, who have created Genie Plus classes or Disney planning classes and charge quite a bit of money for them. They're not travel agents, which is interesting in and of itself, but I think it's great. The more resources, and if you want to pay for somebody to give you that knowledge, that's awesome. But what really didn't make sense to me is why someone would pay, that amount of money for a Genie Plus class and not just use a travel agent to give you all that information for free.
yeah,
And I think that's where, when I was talking to some of my guests that are going in June over dinner that had read this article, they kind of reiterated to me, there's so many people that don't understand that Disney travel agents are out there that will work for free. They expect they're gonna have to pay a lot of money to use a travel agent, or they don't understand what they're getting from a travel agent. I just want to reiterate, like, I think any course or information that you can get, if you think that it's valuable and will help you with your vacation, and the money is not an issue for you, by all means, like, I'm supportive of any creator out there creating that kind of content. But you should absolutely, if you're considering doing that kind of thing, you should be using a travel agent, because it costs you no money and you're going to get just as much, if not more, education on all those topics, plus help with your vacation. So
correct.
that's my, Disney travel agent soapbox. But was there anything else about that article that really stuck out to you, Chip, that, and good or bad or indifferent?
The article's not entirely wrong. I, you and I are the travel planners for our family, so my wife just kind of goes with the flow. I do all the research. I do all look into it. You know, don't pay. My advice: don't pay for those classes. Just go to YouTube. Like that's how I figured out how to use Genie Plus. There's a couple of people on there that I'm like, oh, they actually kind of give really good tips
Mm.
how to refresh, how to do all this. Having a travel agent also, they deal with it every single day. So talking to them, asking them how it works and how lightning wake, individual lightning lanes work. It is kind of crazy, but at the same time, you're not going to be able to ride every single ride. It's just not possible. I've yet to ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. I don't know if we ever are going to until it's not an hour and a half wait.
Yeah.
It's just one of those that we don't. My time is more valuable than sitting in lines, so I figure I would go use Genie Plus, and I'm the one on my phone, not my wife, not my kids. I'm the one on my phone doing it. I do it while as soon as we buzz in or check in, scan our magic band in, I'm looking for the next one. So I'm
Mhm.
spending 2 minutes and then I'm going to the next one and we're ready to go. So it's not like I'm on my phone the whole time.
Yeah, and one thing to point out too is that, like, any travel agent that's worth a salt is going to be teaching you one-on-one how to use Genie Plus.
Yeah.
So you're not just getting emails, but you've got someone that's like personally walking you through how to do this stuff, that has done it probably more than most folks, I'd certainly say. So, like, when I have guests that are asking me about Genie Plus, they're getting my own videos and they're getting access to me directly, whether it be by phone or text. I've had people call me from the parks, so it can be, you can't get that from a course, and it costs you no money. So I just want to reiterate that too, for anyone out there that's not familiar with Disney travel agents, but are, in that Disney travel planning journey. Definitely consider it, whether it's me or anybody else. That's another thing that I reiterate to people, is, like, even if you're not going to use me as a travel agent with the Magic for Less, use somebody. And I think it's going to make your vacation better. Certainly, I'd love if you reach out to me, but use a travel agent is better than using nobody. The other thing that I found really interesting in there is, Disney was contacted to ask if they wanted to comment on the article, and through a Disney spokesman, they basically just reiterated that their goal is to simplify vacation planning in the future, which they've talked about for a long time. And I think we're kind of hearing a lot of people, and this goes back to the Epic Universe, topic this week. The only thing you heard about on the Disney side of things was people that were mad. And they're mad, like, when is Disney going to announce this? When is Disney going to announce that? When are they going to announce a fifth gate? All we're getting is, country bears retheming. The memes, if you're part of my newsletter, I send a meme out at the top of the newsletter because it's become a funny joke at this point. But you know, Disney, they need to get on making this stuff less complicated and making it easier for people to plan trips. So I think that's all part of the process, but it's stuff that we've just been hearing over and over and over again for months, if not years, from Disney. And I don't expect that, there's going to be a huge overhaul that makes that easier.
And
It
I
might just be the rumor is you're going to be able to choose one or two rides on Genie Plus in advance. For
aka
people that haven't been to
going back to Fast Pass.
right, and for people that haven't been to Disneyland, you can purchase Genie Plus for your entire vacation in advance when you go to Disneyland. At Walt Disney World, you got to wake up at midnight or sometime after midnight and purchase your Genie Plus every single day of your trip. And the frustrating part of that is if you wait until 6:30 to purchase Genie Plus, there's a chance it could sell out.
Yeah.
So that's what I always tell guests. Like you better wake up at 12:05 a.m., buy Genie Plus, and go back to bed because that way you can make sure that it doesn't sell out. Because if the one you want sells out, you're out of luck, and it's gonna be a long day.
Yeah, you're not wrong in that. Going back to that rumor mill, I read an interesting article from very credited. They said they had a very big credible source that a fifth gate is going to be announced. I don't know when. They said by the end of the year, which obviously got D23 in August, so we'll see. But that's what I read.
It came from a professor at a university that studies theme parks.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like that's one of those clickbait style articles. It popped up on every Disney fan site that does news articles like that. Oh, Disney's going to announce a fifth gate, says an expert or whatever. I hope that they do, and Chip, I'm sure you agree. You hope
yeah.
that they do too.
I want to
But
ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
the next be really interesting. And I also read, I think that same expert estimated 5 to 8 million people would visit Epic Universe next year,
Yep.
which is crazy. I mean, that is a lot of attendance, and the impact that that could have on Orlando theme parks, because that same expert was saying that Epic Universe is going to be the best theme park in the state of Florida next year, which, based on what we've seen so far, I'm not doubting as much as I love Disney. So we're Universal fans too here. This is a Disney and Universal trip planning podcast. So it's going to be good content for us and good things for us to talk about and good vacations for guests to go on. So
Yeah.
let's jump into our listener questions for the week. And the first one is, what is the best resort for the Epcot Flower and Garden Festival? Chip, what do you think here?
Well, my thought is you want to be able to get into Epcot from the backside of it. Oh my gosh,
International Gateway?
International Gateway. I want to call it World Showcase Gateway, and I knew that was wrong. International Gateway. So whether you're on the Skyliner or you're at the Boardwalk Yacht or Beach Club, just depending on where you're. I mean, you have all three options of the different tiers because you could stay at Pop Century, you could stay at Caribbean Beach, and you could stay at Riviera or the other three that I previously mentioned, and you're right there. I think that's the best way, especially if you want to spend most of your time in Epcot. Stay on the Skyliner.
I couldn't agree more. I think that you have to stay at an Epcot resort if you're going to spend the majority of your time there. Now, if you just want to go for one day and you're not going to spend the majority of your time at Epcot, then it reopens kind of all the other resorts. And I would not pick your resort based on Flower and Garden or Epcot or your plans there. I would just pick it, based on a normal Disney vacation. But I agree. And, the big thing is that I've seen lately Pop Century's priced up a little bit. So, don't be afraid to look at Art of Animation and don't be afraid to bump up to Caribbean Beach and add in a resort day to get your value there because sometimes Pop Century is pretty close to the moderates,
Yeah.
based on the dates. And the moderates, especially if there's a promotion going, the moderates can have better deals. And the pricing gets much closer because you've got a higher discount on the moderate resorts. So keep that in mind too. But that's a great question, and I'm really looking to Flower and Garden. I'm trying to maneuver a trip there somewhere around the 28th so that I can be there for the opening of Flower and Garden. It's one of my favorite festivals. Be sure to check out the bands and the Garden Rocks concert series because we love that too. So, second question is, where is the best place to get coffee at Walt Disney World? And in turn, I want to mention one other thing. And Chip, I don't know if you and I have talked about this topic. Have we talked about deluxe resort coffee options?
No.
I don't think we have. I don't think we ever have. So it was brought to my attention recently that the only coffee makers in deluxe resort rooms are the old school coffee pots.
That's not 100% true.
It's not.
No. So some of the DVCs, which is the that DVC resorts are in that. You'll get the K cups as well.
Okay, like all right, we're not. We'll give the DVC exception for the normies that are staying in a non-DVC deluxe. Okay, you go to Animal Kingdom Lodge, you go to Grand Floridian, you go to Polynesian. You're gonna get the old school Saratoga Springs, which is DVC, had a coffee.
Okay.
So I think the majority of the deluxe, at least the deluxe is non-DVC, and even some of the DVC have the old school coffee pots, and I find that ridiculous. To go on a little bit of a rant here, every Marriott that you can stay at now has K cups, Keurigs, or an espresso machine. The fact that you have to use an old school coffee pot that like a majority of young people probably don't even know how to use anymore. At a deluxe, at the price you pay for a deluxe is insane. That's another thing that I think Universal gets a little bit of a leg up on is they've got a Starbucks in the majority of their resorts, which like Disney is stuck with Joffrey's. I know that there's like a unique group of people that absolutely love Joffrey's, drinks his coffee black, and like he loves Joffrey's. That's fine, just because he likes coffee grounds, I guess. But my wife would testify that the Joffrey's coffee tastes like concrete. So it was so bad to me that I went from Saratoga Springs to Starbucks every morning on our last trip. But putting that aside, like Chip, I guess if you like Joffrey's, you'll just drink Joffrey's. But what's your go-to coffee plan when you're at Walt Disney World?
Well, so I
Have
don't
you ever
cons-
brought your own coffee?
I will buy it. Yeah, I'll buy it from like I'll have it delivered like grocery Instacart, which is what we're gonna do this summer. So I probably drink 2.5, 3 cups of coffee a day. It's that teacher lifestyle in me. We use a normal coffee pot in my house every day. So K cup just doesn't suffice. I need like 2 or 3 K cups to get me through the day or my morning. So I don't mind doing that. Now I've gotten to the point where I can't just drink like basic regular coffee like Folgers or I don't mind. Like we've started getting into where we I don't know ground our own coffee, but it's one of those things where best cup of coffee is whatever you want it. I mean, you can get Starbucks. I'm just not a Starbucks fan, so
We
that's why.
our friend Jocelyn that was on a prior episode brings her own French press. So there are people that go to Walt Disney World that bring their own. I'm not kidding. Bring their own method of making coffee, and that's because the resort options can be lacking. I'll tell you the best coffee that I've had from Joffrey's is the Shaken Jamaican. I
I've heard
love
that.
that
Yeah,
thing.
I've heard that's good.
Gideon's has that amazing
Oh,
peanut, whatever that peanut butter
peanut
thing
butter
was that
cold
you
brew.
recommend.
Peanut butter cold brew. It's
Oh my gosh,
phenomenal. Phenomenal.
that right there is the best coffee at Walt Disney World, in my opinion. I will go on the limb. To me, it's the peanut butter cold brew at Gideon's. Number two would be the shaken Jamaican. I think the Polynesian has some good Kona coffee options, if I remember correctly. But then you're starting to get into should you stop at Starbucks at one of the parks or at Disney Springs or just drink the Joffreys at the hotel. But again, I'll reiterate, like my brother-in-law, like the majority of the people I've talked to about this subject, they cannot stand Joffrey. So if you're a listener and you love Joffrey's, make sure you chime in my DMs like you guys did about the flip flops because
Now, I will tell you, I think they're like they're Disney's working to put the both the K cup and the pot machine. I don't know what that's called, but I've started seeing those more in as they're updating rooms.
they need to
Uh,
do that, and that goes back to the like that was the original premise of the topic. I think, like at least from my perspective, from the listener's perspective, it was the best coffee. But when it comes down to the price point you're paying at a deluxe, for them not to have one of the basic amenities that you have at like a courtyard, it to me is frustrating. So
I'm with you on that.
yeah, I think they've got to get that because it's sometimes it's the little things that can mean a lot to people. So for all my coffee lovers out there, there's your answer. The next question was in reference to our last episode. I guess it was 2 episodes ago about Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, and the question was: Are there two Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique locations? And if so, is the pricing the same? So, Chip, let's talk about this. So you have done the Disney Springs location for Bibbidi
Yes,
Bobbidi Boutique, right?
yes.
And that is no longer operating, at least not right now. We
Which
hope it'll be back.
yeah, I was gonna say which I would think it would come back just to give more options, but maybe it's they're 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 trying to hire people for that role. I don't know.
Well,
Because
what's interesting is there's still some. It closed for the pandemic and didn't reopen. There's still a lot. Like when you really think about it, there's a lot of stuff that has not reopened post COVID.
especially
There's still
resort
restaurants,
stuff. Yeah, restaurants, resorts. I mean,
the
spas. I don't think.
spas.
Yeah, that hasn't opened back up. Um, I, I would hope it. I'd hope it opened back up because I just because we didn't feel like rushed or cramped in. It is the same price. I will say it is the same price. They are the
That
same
and
price.
that's great to know. But yeah, the spa thing is frustrating, and it was frustrating for us because it was marathon weekend, and the runners usually book a lot of the spa treatments, like the massages and stuff, pretty quickly because for good reason, right? They need it for their legs. But the only option is the Grand Floridian spa. The Senses Spa at Saratoga is not open. The spa at Coronado Springs is not open. And as far as I'm aware, none of the other resorts outside of the Grand Floridian have reopened post COVID. So you've still got spas that have closed. You've got restaurants that are closed. You've got Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique at Disney Springs is still closed, but it's still there too. Like it's not like they're doing anything else in that location. So I'm sure it's going to reopen. But
Yeah,
we're well out of the pandemic now, and it's kind of surprising that they haven't seen it. And the demand's there too for Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique.
yeah.
There's enough demand for them to have a second location because we see it all the time that people go to do the reservation and can't get one. So I find that to be a little interesting. But I hope that answered your question, Ashley, and we certainly appreciate you sending it in. The next question is there's been a lot of talk about beignets at Walt Disney World lately. Whether or not Tiana's Bayou Adventure is going to bring in some beignets, frustration about only being able to get them at Port Orleans French Quarter. They're not as good as Disneyland. Beignets, beignets, beignets. I feel like that's all I've been seeing on social media. Chip, are beignets at either Disneyland or Walt Disney World, are they overrated or are they underrated?
They're overrated. The best ones
Thank
are in
you.
New Orleans. Go get them in New
No,
Orleans. That's my opinion. But it's just fried dough. I mean they're good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't like. I'm not going to go out of my way to get them. If I'm staying at French Quarter, yeah, I'll go get them. Like the Mickey shaped ones, those would be cool. But I'm not gonna waste a snack credit for that when when it opens. I know they have them now. Was it at the Magic Kingdom? I saw them
I
over there.
think that they are at Magic Kingdom in one area. I can't remember which one it was because that was part of the discussion is that they're at Magic Kingdom, but they're not as good as the ones at Disneyland. To Disney's benefit, you don't have to go to Port Orleans French Quarter to get them, which to me would have been crazy anyway. Like going to a resort just to get a specific snack, I think was a little overboard. But I'm not a beignet guy anyway. I don't care if they're in New Orleans or Walt Disney World or Disneyland. It's just not my thing. But maybe I need to switch because I made the mistake of getting the funnel cake at Magic Kingdom, and that was terrible. So I'm sure the beignet is a better fried dough option at Magic Kingdom than that was because I will never get that thing again. And that was a 0 out of 10. We'll never do it again. But To the listener that asked about the beignet hype, to me, I think it's overrated, just like Chip said. But I'm not a beignet guy anyway.
And
So
I'll say, looking at the ones I saw at the Magic Kingdom, those did not look appealing. I think the ones over in the French Quarter that are shaped like Mickey, at least those look appealing. The ones in Magic Kingdom look burnt and greasy.
I think it's one of those things that's similar to churros that like the nostalgia Disney history buff kind of folks really love it. So it's gotten this, cult like following for beignets. And I don't know. It's just not. It's not ever been my thing. So to me, it's overrated. But I'm sure that we're gonna have guests on the show that think that it's underrated. So maybe we'll ask some of our future guests questions about that. The next question is: Is it bad? Is it a bad idea to go to Walt Disney World and just wing it? And I asked a follow-up question to the listener about this, and I said, "Are you referring to, like, not having a reservation, or or what do you mean here?" And so the question was, "Is it a bad idea to go to Walt Disney World with a reservation with tickets, but to just wing the rest of it? Not really planning, not making dining reservations." I even asked, and they said that they are going in a week and have not downloaded the My Disney Experience app.
Ooh. You know
So,
what? Well,
what do you
it's
think
just
about that?
based off that. They don't sound like somebody that's gone a lot.
My impression was they've never been before.
Then yes, you that is a bad idea. If you've never been before, you're gonna get overwhelmed. You're gonna come back and say, I wasted all this money and complain, which is fine. Like you can't if like you and I, if we go down and say, hey, we're just gonna wing it, like I'm gonna do that probably 2 or 3 days on my vacation this summer. Just say, hey,
Mhm.
whatever bus shows up, hey guys, that's where we're gonna go.
I've had an experience like that too, where I have not made dining reservations for my vacation at 60 days, but that's because I have a general idea of like what's going to be available, what days, what my kids are gonna like, what we're gonna do, that kind of thing. Like I know I have that experience to know what I'm gonna be able to pull off. But I think if you're going down there without dining reservations and you will want to sit down for dining, you are gonna be in a tough spot. And it goes back to that Washington Post article, right? Like, you're gonna spend the first 2 or 3 days figuring out what just happened to you because you're gonna ride 1 or 2 rides, and you're gonna wait 45 minutes for each one of them, and you're not gonna have your bearings, you're not gonna understand things, you're gonna spend time, waiting in line instead of mobile ordering for food. All the time that you're gonna waste while you're in the parks kind of figuring things out, I think is the part that'll be frustrating. And that's usually when I see people that complain about Walt Disney World, after their trip, it's because they did not do much to prepare. And that leads me to this question, Chip, because I have a really strong feeling about this. How many people do you think fit that bill? In terms of the percentage of people that go to Walt Disney World, how many would you guess do very little planning? Even down to like not having the app downloaded when they arrive.
I'm gonna say it's probably 10 to 15%.
If I had to guess, I think it's a lot higher. I think it's like it might be north of 50%.
You know what? If we're gonna include people staying off site, then I think you're probably right.
Here's why I think that, Chip. If you go to a Walt Disney World resort and you walk down and you look at the line of people trying to check in person at the front desk, it tells you that the majority of those folks have not downloaded the app and they don't know that you can check in on the app without going to the front desk. That right there to me sends a strong barometer because yeah, there's going to be some of the people that are in line because they've got an issue and they need to check in person, or they're following one of the tips that I posted earlier this week, which is if your room isn't ready, then go check in person because a lot of times they'll make it available. But those lines are usually pretty long, no matter what resort you're at. They're usually pretty long, and there's usually a lot of them that are checking in. And the other factor is look at how many people are waiting in line for food or
Yeah.
ice cream. And like you go to Sunshine Terrace and the line is like 30 or 40 people deep, like sometimes all the way to the entrance of Adventureland. None of those people know how to mobile order. Because if they
No.
did, they wouldn't be in line, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
And so if you think about all of those people and the percentage of people that you see doing those kinds of things, you have to think that they're not they just genuinely don't know. And I think that's what's kind of sad about this is that, you do have those free, travel planner options, but to spend that kind of money and not have a clue, I think is just you're setting yourself up for frustration because you're gonna spend that huge amount of money and not have a great time. And then of course you're gonna complain about it, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, now that you think about that, like think about the mobile order line, like, yeah. I mean, I've done it a couple times just because I'm like, you know what, there's no line. I could just mobile order right now, but there's no line. I'll walk up and order. We've done that at Pecos Bills. The majority of the
Or
time
the
I'm just
return time. There's sometimes the return time is not like
yeah.
as quick as you want it, but that's rare, like that you're doing that.
Oh
Because
yeah.
if you're doing that, you're just wasting your time and you know you can come back later and it's like poor planning on your part. I feel like that just doesn't happen very often. And the same could be argued like for I think it's less likely, but could be argued for like when you go to World of Disney and you see the lines for the cashiers instead of people just using mobile checkout.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes there's 50 people in line and instead of just checking out on your app, which, like, so I'll confess, like, if there's not a line, I'm not pulling my app out and doing the mobile checkout. I'll just get in line or, walk through. But sometimes those lines are huge.
Well,
So,
there's
what
also people saying like, "Hey, don't wait in line. Use the app and
Mhm.
let's check out." But like, I don't remember. I probably had 5 people tell it to me as I'm just walking around the store. I didn't even buy anything.
Yeah, and I think to me that signals that there's a lot of people that don't understand and don't do a whole lot of planning. And so if you do a little bit, it's one of those things where if you do a little bit, I think you're in like the upper percentile of people that are going to be planning their vacation, and you're gonna be in a much better position to have a great trip. So the next question is the best place to watch the Super Bowl or another sporting event. Chip, what are your thoughts here? Have you ever watched a game Walt Disney World?
Actually, I have the Cavs in the NBA Finals in 2018.
Mm,
I watched it from my room because I don't like watching around other people. But we were at Animal Kingdom Lodge and we'd been up since 3:30 that morning, so we just stayed there. But there's really a lot of good options. I would go to Disney Springs and try and get into City
Splitsville?
Works,
Oh,
uh,
City Works is a good one. Yep.
but that's just they've got like 90 beers on tap, and that's my kind of scene. You go to Splitsville, yeah, they one of those two options I think wouldn't be bad. But most of the lounges, maybe in your resort. I mean, if you're at Coronado, go to Rick's.
Rick's is my
Um,
favorite. Rick's is my favorite.
Honestly, there's some good pool bars that have a TV too. I would sit there and watch it, but I mean, you can go watch it wherever you want.
I
Wouldn't be
think the gist there's gonna be plenty of options.
especially Super Bowl. Like I wouldn't be shocked if it's shown at the resort, like out instead of the movie that night, it's going to be the Super Bowl. Like I wouldn't be shocked if
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Well, and I think like it becomes trickier when you're talking about like March Madness because there's a lot of areas that only have one TV. So if you're wanting to watch, multiple games at one time, then you're gonna want to be at somewhere like Splitsville or CityWorks or Rick's. The same goes for like the opening weekend of the NFL. When you when you want to sit down and you want to watch 7 or 8 games at one time, then you need to be at more of the sports bar. But otherwise, I think you won't have any issue finding a place to watch it. I love Rick's. If you're at Coronado, Rick's is great. They've got, loaded French fries and a lot of like the bar food that's really good and it's easy to get in and out of. So definitely check out Rick's. I watched the AFC Championship game, the Bengals Chiefs at Rick's, and half in my room and half at Rick's. So it's a great option.
I would also
Um,
say, like, if you get down, like, if you're down there during the regular season, look up like a local, like I'm a Browns fan, so we got Browns backers bars. There's probably multiple of them around Orlando, and just take an Uber over there, and you're gonna watch it with Browns fans. They'll bring you in. They do raffles. They give giveaways. That'd be another thing to look at as well if you're looking for a specific game.
yeah, definitely check that out because there's also a lot if you're at Universal, there's a lot of really great spots,
Oh yeah.
at the City Walk. So there's the NBC Sports building and, they have a restaurant there and it's the NBC Sports Grill. It is really, really good, but there's a lot of, bar style restaurants that have great TVs at City Walk. So that's a great option too.
Can we go on a
Uh,
side note real quick? When they legalize gambling for sports in Florida, ESPN Bet has got to be a great like they've got to put some sort of restaurant sports book somewhere because that would be phenomenal.
I, you know, I really, really struggle with that because ESPN Zone does not get much love.
Oh, should
And
have.
out like I'm sure it's packed for youth events, and it's certainly areas are packed for Run Disney events, but not like the ESPN Zone, the restaurants and stuff. People are going to the expo and they're leaving for Run Disney events. But I think doing something there. But anytime you talk about Disney and something like betting, even though they own ESPN, it's a tough sell for me that they're going to do something like that. But I you know, who knows? Who
Yeah,
knows what the
we'll
future may
see.
hold? Because it's certainly something that would bring in a lot of revenue, and revenue is something that they want right now. There's no doubt about that, especially for ESPN. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and what the future of ESPN Zone is, especially after the Atlanta Braves left, the spring training complex. It can't just all be cheer and dance competitions because I don't think that's gonna, hold it up over there. But
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. We'll get a couple more questions, and we're gonna get out of here for this week's episode. Is the fireworks dessert party worth the cost? Chip, what do you think about this?
I think it depends on your family and if that is the biggest thing you want to do. If that's the one thing you've got to have a great spot for fireworks, then yeah. I mean, the time is money. That we talk about that a lot. For me, it's not. We're a family of seven, so I'm not going to spend that money. But if you're a family of three, four, five, maybe. But you could also get lucky and walk up one day or walk up right at the right time, and you're in the middle of the walkway, and you have a great spot for fireworks. So it's kind of six one way, half a dozen the other. I don't think it is, but you, Matt, your family, you might think it is.
I'm a huge proponent of it, especially if you're going on your first trip. Usually the price is going to be at least around 129 a person. I think it's variable based on like when you're going and how busy it is. I would not ever do it for a party. Sometimes they're offered for like Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. I would never do it for that because you don't need it for good fireworks spots. But that said, to me, especially if you have little kids who can't stand and hold a spot for the fireworks and you want to see the fireworks, like the fireworks are a priority to you. So to me, like if it's your first Walt Disney World trip and you need to experience happily ever after, which you absolutely do, and you've got little kids that can't hold a spot for 30 or 45 minutes at least, you should buy the dessert party because you're buying the opportunity to not have to sit there with your children and try and hold a spot in a crowd for the fireworks for them to see them, which to me is like the headache associated with doing that is worth the money.
Yeah.
And I like that alone. Now you also get food, you get drinks, you get some great options. And so what we typically do is we buy the pre-fireworks dessert party tickets. So you can go, I think it's at 6:30, and they've got the area right near Tomorrowland, Tomorrowland Terrace. There's all seating that's open just for the dessert party. They park your stroller for you. And what we do is we order dinner from Casey's. We walk over to Casey's and get the dinner and then bring it to our table at the Tomorrowland Terrace. So we'll sit there and we'll eat a full dinner with like no crowds whatsoever. We have no problem getting a table because we got it from the dessert party. Then you get the dessert party buffet, which is like fruits, cheeses, like desserts, all that kind of stuff. Drinks, they're all there. The kids can make cookies and decorate them. They have a blast. And all the while, everybody else is congregating for fireworks and you don't have to do that. And to me, that's what you're paying for is really having that experience of not having to sit out there with your kids to hold a spot down,
And then
which to me is just not something feasible with little kids.
you get a spot on the hub grass, right? To go stand.
Yep. So you finish eating your meal and 20 minutes or so before the fireworks, you head over to the hub grass and the entire area is just for people that are going to the dessert parties. And there's plenty of spots. You have no issue seeing the fireworks. It's a great view. It's awesome. I think it's absolutely worth the money every single time. But that said, yeah, it's part of your family dynamic, right? If you've got teenagers that like you can hold a spot for them while they go ride some rides and they just come back right before the fireworks start, then you don't need it. Or if you're just going on an adults trip or a solo trip, you don't need it. But if you got little kids, it's to me, it's absolutely worth it and then some. So definitely consider it, if you're going, especially on that first trip. The last question of the night, and then we're going to wrap it up. When do the 25 packages open? And not Disney Cruise Line, which Chip has already booked for 2025.
Yeah.
But the Walt Disney World packages for 2025 are
I might
expected to come out in June. That's going to wrap it up for our show this week. And big shout out next week on the show, we are welcoming Lauren, the founder of Main Street Tourist.
yeah, we're
Chip, I'm
excited.
excited about this.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah,
Both of us are excited.
yeah, this is gonna be fun. I love her shop. She does minimalist Disney t-shirts and crew necks and things like that. And if you haven't checked her out, Main Street Tourist on Instagram, and she's got some awesome stuff. I'm really looking forward to my Animal Kingdom shirt that should be here before we record. So that should be fun. And really looking forward to having her on the show. And so definitely get your questions in if you've got any questions for her. And then the following week, we've got the Mini Sisters. We'll tell you more about them, and they are on Instagram, and we're really excited about having them on the show too. I think that one of them is at Walt Disney World today,
Ooh.
so look out for some content from them. Follow me on Instagram, and I share some of their stuff sometimes also. But we are definitely looking forward to having them as guests on the show. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show, don't hesitate to reach out to us on social media. I am at Adventures of a Disney Dad on all socials. Chip, what about you? Where can people find you?
I'm at Robinson Dad Life. Well, the majority of them. So find me there.
There you go. And if you're interested in having me assist you in planning your next Universal or Disney vacation, please feel free to reach out. All the links to get a free quote are in the show notes. Our services are free to you, and we'd love to help you plan your dream vacation. If you have a moment, you could follow, subscribe, like, and review the podcast on whatever platform you prefer. We would greatly appreciate the support. It's been awesome so far as we continue to grow the show. So thank you, and we will see you in the parks.
We'll see you when we see you.